A Las Vegas starter is being floated to the exact team that just burned this front office. And that story alone deserves a conversation. A veteran free agent receiver with playoff pedigree and a direct connection to Kirk Cousins keeps showing up as the most logical fit for this offense. The fastest player in the league just landed in the Raiders' rumor mill. And the best pass rusher on this roster got a brutally honest message about his future that Raider Nation needs to hear. If you bleed silver and black, stay right here. So the Ravens blow up the Maxx Crosby trade, tank his value in the process, and now they want to come back and ask for our center Jordan Meredith. And Sports Illustrated's Jason LaCanfora actually floated this idea out loud like it was supposed to make sense. Look, I get it. Baltimore lost Tyler Linderbaum to Las Vegas in free agency, and they need a center. That is a real problem for them. But here's the thing. Meredith is not even a center. He proved last season that he can be a really solid guard. But when the previous coaching staff decided to play him out of position at center, he ranked 32nd out of 40 centers in the entire league by PFF. 32nd. That is not a player you trade to a contender looking to solve a real problem. That is a player you keep because he might actually be useful at the position he is supposed to play. And that is exactly the situation here. The Raiders are not going to hand Baltimore a possible starting guard unless the Ravens are willing to pay real value in return. And LaCanfora himself admitted these two front offices probably are not rushing to work together after everything that happened with the Crosby deal. John Spytek is not sitting in that office looking to do Baltimore any favors right now. Meredith got buried on this depth chart because of decisions made by people who are no longer in this building. Pete Carroll's staff played him out of position, and it hurt his stock badly. The Athletic's Sam Warren called him one of the biggest offseason losers for the Raiders, pointing out that Jackson Powers-Johnson, Spencer Burford, Trey Zune, and Caleb Rogers are all ahead of him now. That depth chart is brutal. But here is what matters. If Meredith can show out at guard during OTAs and training camp, he has a real path to a starting spot on this offensive line. Trading him to Baltimore for nothing makes zero sense when you still have decisions to make up front. Keep him, let him compete, and let the best 5 linemen win their jobs. That is how you build an offensive line the right way. 85 catches, over 1,000 yards, and a not guilty verdict on May 5th, clearing his name completely. And the veteran receiver who keeps showing up as the most logical fit for this offense is Stefon Diggs. And Sports Illustrated's Mike Kadlick just came out and said Las Vegas is one of the best possible landing spots for him right now. Kadlick was direct about it. The current Raiders receiver room is below average at best, and adding Diggs as a veteran leader makes a ton of sense for a team entering Clint Kubiak's first season with a rookie quarterback under center. The connection to Kirk Cousins from their time together in Minnesota is real, and it matters. If Cousins starts week 1, and it looks increasingly like he will, he already knows exactly how Diggs runs his routes, where he is going to be on every play, and how to get him the ball in rhythm without wasting precious reps building that chemistry from scratch. That is genuinely valuable for an offense that is going to need every advantage it can find in a division loaded with defensive talent. And Kadlick made a point that really stuck with me. Diggs has been a net positive at every recent stop. Houston with C.J. Stroud, New England with Drake May, both young quarterbacks, both situations where a veteran receiver came in and made the offense better, and the quarterback's life easier. That is exactly the Fernando Mendoza situation. Now here's where it gets interesting, because not everybody agrees. Former Raiders offensive lineman Lincoln Kennedy went on the Raiders squad show and pumped the brakes hard. He said the team needs to see what Jack Beck, Dante Thornton Jr., and Trey Tucker can actually do before going out and spending money on a veteran receiver. And then he said something that I think deserves real consideration. Bringing in one of these star diva names creates distractions on a very young and impressionable team that needs cohesiveness above everything else right now. That is not a crazy take. That is a legitimate football argument from someone who has been in that locker room environment. So here's where I land on this. Diggs is not a diva. His legal situation is resolved, and his recent stops prove he shows up and does the work. But Kennedy's point about evaluating the young guys first is worth sitting with before this front office makes any move. One side says, go get Stefon Diggs, use that Cousins connection, and give Mendoza a proven veteran to learn from. The other side says, slow down, evaluate the young guys, and don't bring distractions into a locker room still finding its identity. Both arguments are real, and Raider Nation is split. I want to know where you stand. Do the Raiders go get Diggs before training camp, or do they trust the young receiver room and see what happens? Drop it in the comments. Hit that like button if you are locked in with the silver and black, because the next name in this receiver conversation is one nobody saw coming. The receiver conversation just went to a completely different level because the name showing up in the Raiders rumor mill now is wide receiver Tyreek Hill. And if you are a Raiders fan sitting at home right now, your reaction is probably the same as mine. Wait, are we actually doing this? Hill is 32 years old and still the most dangerous receiver in this entire league when he is healthy and motivated. His speed alone changes how every single defense has to game plan for an offense. You cannot play single high safety against Tyreek Hill. You cannot play man coverage without accounting for where he is on every single snap. The gravity he creates on a defense is something that no other receiver in the NFL can replicate at his level right now. And the fit here is honestly terrifying in the best possible way. Think about what Klint Kubiak's offense looks like with Hill on the outside. Brock Bowers running routes underneath while Hill is threatening to take the top off the defense on every single play. Safeties cannot help on Bowers because they are scared of Hill going vertical. Linebackers cannot cheat toward the line because Hill is going to run right past them. The entire field opens up and Fernando Mendoza suddenly has lanes to throw into that do not exist without a player of Hill's caliber on this roster. The cap math actually works too. Hill's market value sits around $15 million annually, and the Raiders have the flexibility to structure a short-term deal that brings him in without damaging the financial foundation being built around Mendoza's rookie contract. Now, the honest disclaimer here is that this is a rumor and nothing more right now. No official offer, no confirmed interest from Hill's side, nothing signed or agreed upon. And at 32, coming off a difficult season in Miami, there are real questions about where his motivation is and whether he wants to come to a rebuilding team or chase a championship somewhere else. But here's the thing. Las Vegas is not asking Hill to carry this team alone. They are asking him to be the final piece that makes everything else on this offense impossible to stop. That pitch is compelling for a player who still has something to prove. We feel this one in our chest. Every single one of us knows what Tyreek Hill in silver and black would mean for this franchise right now. Nobody wants to say this out loud, but somebody has to. And the honest truth about Maxx Crosby is that his future with this franchise beyond 2026 is genuinely uncertain, and Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer just put it in writing in a way that every Raider fan needs to read and sit with. Breer said there is a very, very high percentage chance that Crosby starts the regular season with the Raiders, and that everybody's intention is for him to settle back in as a leader and an early torchbearer for Klint Kubiak's new program. That part feels good. That part is exactly what this fan base wanted to hear after the Baltimore Ravens drama nearly sent him out of Las Vegas in the most chaotic way possible. But then Breer said something else that cannot be ignored. The Ravens backing out of that trade had a real chilling effect on Crosby's trade value. When a well-respected organization like Baltimore does something that unusual, it reverberates around the league. Other teams noticed. Other front offices made mental notes. And now, Maxx Crosby is heading into the 2026 season with less trade leverage than he had back in March, which changes the entire calculation for John Spytek if things go sideways. Here is the scenario that nobody in Raider Nation wants to think about, but needs to think about anyway. If this team is sitting at 2 wins and 6 losses through 8 games, and Crosby has 9 sacks, Breer said it directly. The calls are going to come in. Spytek and Kubiak will not have to do anything. The phone will ring on its own. And at that point, closing the door completely on a Crosby trade would be difficult to justify for a front office that is still very much in a rebuilding phase, with real decisions to make about this roster's future. The silver lining here is that Kieran Crawford is coming in as a rotational piece, specifically designed to keep Crosby fresh and healthy across a full season. Hugh Myers said seeing Crosby out there for 100% of the snaps this year would be reckless at this stage of his career, and that Crawford is going to rotate in and keep those edges fresh. That is the right approach. Protect your best player, maximize his impact in the moments that matter most, and hope this team wins enough games to make the trade conversation irrelevant by November. That is the plan. Now this roster has to execute it. This week put everything in perspective. A starter is being floated to the team that burned this front office, and the answer should be simple. The receiver debate has two real sides and no clean answer yet. The fastest player in the league showed up in the rumor mill, and the best pass rusher on this roster is starting the season here. But the first 8 games could change everything. Every story this week connects to the same question. Is this finally the year things turn around? Drop your take in the comments. This space belongs to everyone who screams, "Just win, baby," and never gives up. Tomorrow we have more.